Okay. All right, friends. So here's our agenda. So we will be talking about the writing process. There'll be plenty of tips, templates to share, full-on release of materials. And so we'll spend like a lot of time like looking at the different strategies with respect to, and I talked about this in your slam earlier, but this, I really would like to lean into this concept of the gradual release process, right? Just not having students go wild with their writing, or have students, like, here's the rubric, kids, go write, and then expect for high quality results, right? I'm not saying that's what you all are doing, but I think it's really mindful to look at that, use the gradual release, and I'll even show you, like, we'll kind of reference this quite often over the next 45 minutes of like the teacher responsibility versus the student responsibility, and what that could look like. And when I say what it could look like, I'm being really purposeful with my language, because that might look different for first period as it does second period. It might look different for this chunk of students in your class versus another. So, and that can get challenging, right? Like the more that we try to maneuver, the more nuanced our instruction can get. And so, what we're going to start out with, I just want to collab. I'm really keen to hear like where you are with getting your students, not just with writing, but perhaps like literacy in general. So I'm going to click on my Kami Chrome extension here. And you know what? I'm not even going to go to the library. If you're in my session yesterday, we did a little bit of a dive into the library. I'm just going to go straight up blank page, just the blank. Let's make this landscaped. There we go. Just one page. How many do we have here? Oh yeah, should be enough space. Maybe change the color. I don't know. What would be cute? I don't know what would be cute. Maybe this blue. Okay. So I'm gonna hit create. So if you don't know now, you know that Kami is a great collaborative tool, right? And so we're gonna get on this digital whiteboard here. And so what I would like kind of to hear is like, um, what do you, um, you know what, even better, how are you implementing writing in your class? Right. Let me change the background. Maybe gonna match the blue. Kind of, sort of. I'm gonna put that at the top here. I'm making it super small so that way we have plenty of space. But how are you implementing writing in your class? Right? What do you love to have your students write about? Maybe love's not the right word, right? But like, how are you getting your students writing, large or small? Like, I'm not talking like essays, maybe prompts, claim evidence, reason. I want to hear it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and hit share. Make sure we have all the tools here, because you do have that control here if you're in a Kami. I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the chat, kind of give you a moment here. And I will also I'll pin all of it. I'll pin the collab. And so that way you can click on that. It'll open up a new tab. It'll drift away from the Google Meets, but as long as you can hear me, you'll be good. You may need to log in, though your district's good to go with the Kami setup, to my knowledge. We're starting to see people jump on. That's great. So I was a history teacher, so I have to always check myself. I'm going to stop talking, and then I'm going to let you all drop in those thoughts. Click on that Kami tool on the left, drop it on the page, and then we'll kind of chat about it in a bit. Yay. Okay. Uh, daily journal topics for warm-ups. Yes. Short answer responses about science concepts. I often feel like I need to translate the student's grammar. Yes. We'll be talking about that. Oh, who's calling out DBQ? Mm. I was Laurel. Oh my gosh, get out of here. I was like, that would be Laurel. Yes, I love me a DBQ. Science lab reports and research. Collections, best practices. Okay. Daily journal topics. Yep. Um, FRQs. Yes. So if you are in the AP space, depending on the grade level, oh, yep. Apes. Yeah, yeah. That's really great. We can spend some time looking at FRQs in a bit once we can do a deep dive into the strategies. DBQ, yes. I'm gonna put mine. If you already dropped in your annotation, if you want to pop over and look at my screen, you're more than welcome. One thing that I used to do is the because, but, so. So this strategy here, I would where would I drag this onto? Like warm-ups. I show this to my student teachers often because oftentimes like the student teachers, they are doing a lot of like they're working really hard when they don't have to, right? Get that strategy that can be embedded into a routine. So the because, but, so, this is just it's sentence framing. It's checking a lot of boxes. But so I can do like imperialism contributed to World War I, just using that because, and then literally just like imperialism is contributed to World War I, but I can type, I promise. And so it's nothing but sentence frame. And then I would also drop in like just an area for them to finish that out. And I almost would have like a template, right? Like imperialism contributed to World War I because, right? What is the claim? Imperialism contributed to World War I, but like that gets them thinking. I'm like, okay, so the word but, and I would even have the because, but, so on the regular highlighted, right? So that way they see it often. Because students, even though they don't admit it, they like the routine. They're like, oh, cool, we're doing this again, and I know how to do it. It's always a pain mid-year. You're throwing in a new strategy because you went to a conference or you listened to some dude with a beard and like, oh, I'm going to try this new thing. So that's rough. But if you can take the 2 to 3 strategies that you're like, what are the 3 things that worked the best this year that were new? And then boom, the start of the next school year, embed that into your procedures, your routines. And then the last one is imperialism contributed to World War I. So the expansion, right? Just wanted to share this out with you. What I will do, and look how cool this is. So like we're in this collaborative space. I can, for our learners that are, English is not their native language, students that need access to the collaborative experience, know that when you hover over any annotation you can have it be read back to you. And you may not be able to hear that just the way the Meets is set up right now, but you can have that read aloud, and all the learners now have the read aloud. The other thing that you'll notice is that we can't go in and delete or move each other's annotations. We just can't, right? So from a classroom management standpoint, huge advantage with Kami. I'm going to go ahead and add another page right here. I'm going to hit the little plus. I'm going to add one more page. I'm going to do it within a different color. And before we do any type of dive into the strategies that I'm going to share with you, I'd really love to customize this out for you. So what you can do is go ahead and refresh your page, refresh your Kami doc, if you don't mind. That is how you'll be able to see the page that I just added. Because I'm curious of like what roadblocks are you currently experiencing with your student, with the writing process? What roadblocks are you currently experiencing with the writing process, right? So like someone up here mentioned grammar, right? Oh, shout out to Jennifer, mentioned grammar, but like down here, because I'd really like to take this information and use that to craft the rest of this session. So yeah, so if you wouldn't mind dropping that in, really appreciate that. And depending on what the writing is, right? So sometimes, hold on. For me, sometimes it was getting them to get started. Not because of defiance, but because like they didn't know. They didn't know where to begin while looking at a primary source or to get started on a thesis statement, let's say. Oh yes, elaboration on evidence. We're gonna be looking at that because sometimes it comes elaboration really big. Okay, I'm gonna put a star next to that, and that comes down to, and it just, this is where my head's going. Not like all this is right or wrong. We got the claim, we got the evidence, we got the reason, but right, and I don't know about you all, but like my students, my sophomores, they were okay. They were okay here. But the moment they get here, they're like, where is the evidence? And they did all right. But then when you try to get into the reason, that's where they're like, oh. And sometimes it is defiance. Sometimes. But not defiance in like, oh, I'm a problem child. I'm sure you all have those. I had a few of those too. But sometimes it's like defiance in the sense of like, I don't want to think. That's the thing too. Like they don't want to put in that time. But what we could be doing is providing scaffolds that make it seem like, hey, this ain't that bad. It's okay. You can do this. Yep. The reasoning, commentary to connect, support the evidence, 100%. Okay. I think I know where we're going to go with all this. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and pop your eyeballs back to the screen that I'm sharing. Would really appreciate that. I'm going to go back to my little slide deck. And so I'd like to quickly talk about this. So like the types of writing, right? I do want to be respectful of our time though. Like, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like with the different types of writing that your students may be doing, right? Whether it's narration, description, like, is it persuasive? Is it the exposition of things? Like, so, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, yes, Jennifer, I will, you know what? I'll do that right now. Oh my gosh. There it goes. Thank you for reminding me, Jennifer. It will be posted later on the website, but I can drop it now. I'll also pin it. I don't know if you all want it, if you have a preference there. That's slide deck. No problem at all. So again, correct me if I'm wrong. The narration, and I'm not trying to be like, the narration, that's more of like, we see that more in the primary levels, right? You may be doing this, but you may not be doing it often. The description, you might be doing sometimes, maybe, but my experience was at the more of the secondary level, because I do understand that this is our audience, this is who we're working with today, is like, it's more of the persuasion, right? It's the more of like the claim, evidence, reason. What's the author's position? Making an argument, using evidence to support that argument, right? Or it's for a really particular audience, like a research paper. And again, you can take some of these skills and don't feel like you have to be like, I understand that the end game might be like, be a really good writer with essays or with research, right? That might be the end game for you with your learners. But we have to be able to break it apart. And my friend Sophie kind of contributed this slide here for this presentation, but like this idea that test prep is not test practice, right? Don't expect to be like, hey, I'm going to assign as many essays as possible, and then eventually they'll get better by chance, right? We have to be able to break that apart, like the elements involved, right? And so when we're thinking about writing, what are the little strategies, the grab and go strategies that hopefully you'll be able to gather today and just start implementing it, right? And also there's going to be a thing of like isolating the writing strategy from the content. And so we're going to spend time talking about that too. I do like sharing, you saw this in the slam, but I do love, and I think you saw this one too, this one right here. So this gradual release, right? So this teacher responsibility at the beginning of the school year. So I do feel like we have a few people in the room at least that is familiar with DBQ or maybe like any type of like claim, evidence, reason strategy. But no shades to my former school or my colleagues, but I was doing a lot of DBQ while the other teachers were not, because they were scared of it, because they were like, they don't know how to do it, and I don't feel like taking the time to show them how. But they need to be writing, right? Like they need to be able to write. And so the gradual release for the for the DBQ process was really important, or with writing in general, right? We have to model that instruction. There is going to be direct instruction. The first time we did a DBQ, like I basically almost low-key, almost did it for them, modeling all the steps of how to do it. What is it right? What is it like to write a good hook? What is it like to brainstorm a good hook? Same thing with the thesis statement, right? And then eventually getting into the coach, assessing, guided practice. And for me, so what this triangle right here, and also how the student responsibilities also changes. This whole process took 1 year to do it successfully, 1 school year. For some of my students, they would get it. It would take them like a semester. Some students, they show up and they just do it. You're going to have those too. But on average, my students it took them about a year to be able to do all the things that I'm asking of them from a writing perspective. It would take them about a year, and that's fine. That's okay. And so I think it's really important that when you look at the student side of things, that they do know how to listen. They know how to engage. The writing is not just putting the ink on the page or the typing. It's the other things involved of knowing how to give and receive feedback, right? How to do it collaboratively. And then eventually all that leaning into that independent learning, right? That's the ultimate goal for them. So we have a few strategies here. And so I'm going to, depending on what they are. So some of these were designed for elementary, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But one thing is the vocabulary, right? And so getting students to really lean into vocabulary that they're not familiar with, and pepper in that vocabulary, even in the most casual contexts, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on that little vocabulary link. And so this right here, this is just like the A-list, right? Essential academic words that we might be using from a skill set standpoint, right? So you may, like, what I used to do is I used to take this list and I mean, like, you know what, this week I'm feeling wild. We're going to, maybe last week we did describe. Maybe we're going to evaluate a lot this week. So don't look at this in the sense of these are just some vocab terms, or these are some words that we use for our objective, right? Because I know you all be doing that, right? Students will be able to describe or imagine. And yeah, like evaluate, that might be up on my board somewhere. But then notice that it's giving me the other words that could be used in replacement of that word. So instead of evaluate, I'm going to just casually like, hey, we need to figure out how to make the best of our classroom space today. Or we need to figure out how to reorganize this. So that comes down to start getting them to think about these different words in a different context, away from just at the very beginning of a semester or a school year, away from the content. Like you throw in the word evaluate on Wilson's 14 points, they're gonna be like, ugh, no, hate that. Why are there 14? And so like they won't know what to do with that, right? But if you can start peppering in the skills casually with, and not just casually, but also like in a fun, different way, away from the content, that is a stepping stone. That is a scaffold for your learners with respect to all this. This right here is just a strategy. Now, this is just a Venn diagram. And again, the way you get to the Venn diagram from the Kami libraries, you click on the Chrome extension, you click on the library. I said Venn, I meant Freyer, sorry. So you click on this one. And so boom, that's how you get to it. You can take this to split and merge and duplicate it. And so there's that. But this one, and you can do whatever you want with this, right? So breaking this apart a bit. Know that because we have the read aloud, the students can learn how to pronounce these terms correctly. They're like, oh, it's trudge. And allow students to really engage with Cami in the sense of like, let them help themselves, right? When they come across a word in Cami, when they don't know. Because how many learners, if they truly don't know, are going to ask? Like, chances are they're not going to. So giving them the tools to do so. I won't show you all the things here of how you would do this, but you can drop in various different terms here and terms that are important with what they're going to be doing that week from a writing standpoint, right? And so you can also, in Cami, you have the dictionary tool to have that term be defined for you. If it is in a different language, like if it's in Spanish, you can't have that in Spanish. And my friend Margie dropped in this link for the synonyms, right? So if you trudge, because sometimes it is about not knowing these words. And maybe I share this out, not this one. Maybe you share this out collaboratively. So Anna, at the moment, the dictionary is only there you go, in English and Spanish. They're working on adding to this, so expect that within this calendar year. I don't know about this, about the school year, but this calendar year, for you to do that. Know that within the read aloud, if you go into the read aloud, and mine's in US, Google US, if I click on that, then you get all the languages here. And these languages are going to vary depending on the browser and device that you're on. I think that the Google ones are the best. So you do have that, and your students have that at your disposal as well. I hope that answers that question, Anna. And then also doing things like image or GIF, depending on where you are politically on that. I'm going to go ahead and go to add media, and then I'm going to go, you can do a Google image search, because sometimes the students are like, they read the definition, but from like an accessibility standpoint, like allow them to search here. There we go. And sometimes they need guided practice with some of this stuff, right? Sometimes like you may want to do a word and allow them to use, I know, big shocker, but like allow them to use their own inquiry, right? And when they're using their own inquiry on some of these words, like they'd be like, oh, he's like plowing through, he's walking, he's trudging through that snow, right? And then you can have students over to the right explain what they see. You see what I'm doing here? It's in terms of the scaffolding, instead of just being like, who remembers back in the day? Here's the vocab list. Go to the back of the book. Boom, boom, boom. But that's just moving words over, right? That's all that is. Here, they're finding an image, first of all, but then they're also evaluating that image and doing a lot more with it, right? And the way that they explain it, you can do a few different things. You can straight up have them leave a voice comment to then talk all that out. And if this is done collaboratively, other students will be able to listen to that, almost build like a study group kind of environment, right? Where you have all of their comments here. The other thing too is in the add media, in the add media area, there's a camera function where they can take a photo for sure, but they can record a video, or they can, boom, talk stuff out, hit record. Once they're done talking, maybe they're talking out that image, what they see, they're describing the image. So in turn, they're describing the vocab term, right? and then they just drop it on the page. And anyone can come in and click on that and view it. If I was still in the classroom, I'd be missing, and don't repeat this because I work at Cami now. I'd be missing a Flipgrid. I'd be missing a flip, right? So you can use Cami to remedy that issue of having that one less tool. Not that other tools can't do this, but more things in one place, I think, is what I'm getting at. So that's one strategy, right? Like around vocab, how do we use this? And I think this first page is more about how do we use this with like no technology, like there's no tech options. And then here, using Cami, using the technology transformatively, in my opinion, to really scaffold the vocab build. There's an oral rehearsal here. You're gonna have access to that as well. Little globe still shaking. Okay, cool. Okay, this one's really elementary focused, so I'm not going to go too much into this, but this is something my friend Margie or Sophie, maybe both. It's basically a game that they roll it. They roll a dice, and then they go wherever they are and give the reader a compliment, right? And so this can be designed for full digital interaction or a blend of some tech and no tech, right? Maybe they are doing some of the writing on paper, and I'm not here saying that their whole lives have to be digital, right? I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to say that. So if you want to explore this, if you wanted like to collab with me on like building more like a secondary iteration of this, would be happy to do that. But this one right here, so the play games to encourage text analysis. So we have the claim evidence reason. And sometimes what's difficult for students is like, okay, I have the claim. Maybe they struggle with the claim, right? But for the most part, kids know how to make a claim. They know how to say, I like this, or I think this. They already come with opinions. And like we're talking about even junior high, like they already have their opinions of like, you know, Call of Duty is better than Fortnite because like, and I would engage with kids with the claim and the evidence on the regular, like in casual conversation, right? And that does open up doors of be like, oh wait, it is helpful and useful in life to be able to say something and like low key kind of prove it, right? Like that's a fair thing. So this first one here, very cool. Okay, so this one, this is something that you can push out. Like if you made a copy of this, which you low key can. So when you click on this, if you want to download this, you can export this with all the annotations, right? Like you can do that. This, if you assign this out in Classroom, these are drag and drops. So they'll be able to drag and drop. What is this one? I think that polar bears live in polar climates. Is that a claim? Is that an evidence? Or is it reasoning? You can also, when you get your own copy, you can delete all of these and create your own text boxes and create your claim. Your claim. And so there's a level of front loading here. There's a level of like, cool. How do I know? How do I know it's a claim? And so it's a matter of modeling. It's also a matter of scaffolding of like, oh, it says my evidence right here. I'm like, bruh, little Timmy. Then when you get to the evidence part, are you gonna put my evidence? Yes. And then you may have different like styles or like, you know, parameters of how you want them to write, how academic do you want the writing. Like you can get all that, but you can tailor this to meet your own. Now here's one thing here. I'm gonna export this. I'm gonna show you how you would export this, and I'll show you why in a second. I'm going to, with all annotations, I'm going to save this in my computer. Gonna download. Boom. I'm going to drop back over to the Kami dashboard. If you drag and drop any download, boom, right into the dashboard, it'll move it. So now I have a new copy. Okay, cool. So the reason why I did that is something that I could do is I can delete all of these drag and drop items. I'm going to delete all of them. Oh my gosh. Why didn't you delete them? Whatever. Anyway, so come on, Kami. If it lets me again. The select tool. Katie, if you're still on the call, yeah, you're still on the call. Can we post stuff for the engineers? Like when I go to the select annotations, it grabs all of them, but it doesn't do what I want. Yeah, that is something. I don't know if they're even aware of this. Okay, cool. So my point is, this right here is if they need the support of like what is claim, what is evidence, from a blended learning standpoint, don't be the sole proprietor of all the information. Post it up in a video or drop a YouTube video so that way they can reference on their own terms, right? Because how many times, especially for our early teachers, and Laurel, I know that you know this live, for our early teachers, they're trying to answer all the questions. Be like, but they're like exhausted. I'm like, stop being exhausted. Put a video and just have the kids like, just watch the video yet? And you're going to be answering less questions, right? You're going to have more energy to more purposeful, practical things. So the reason why I deleted all this business down here is what if you did this? Where to go? What if you did this to start out with, where they just drag and drop? Boom, boom, like you do this as a bell ringer. Do this a few times, and then assign a fresh copy again, so that way they can contribute their own drag and drops. So if they contribute their own drag and drops, you can move them all into a split and merge, and then have them do each other's, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can move through that strategy. And if that doesn't make sense, if you need like more like to see that, please let me know. And for how are we doing on time? For one of these, we're actually going to do together. So loading up this next one here. Okay, so love this one. So this is, does it match? Which evidence matches the claim? So again, remove the content away. So this, what's in green here, let me make this a little bigger for you. Claim, students at our school enjoy PE class. So give them the claim right away. And maybe after doing this a few times with no content, you add content. And then from an evidence standpoint, they have to figure out, well, what's the best evidence? Super scaffold, right? It's already there for them. So like 5 kids scrap their knees playing kickball. You know what? I'm gonna do this. Oh, there's different ones. Okay. What I'm gonna do is we're gonna do this together. I'm gonna do a new copy. I don't want to mess up this copy because my colleagues be using some of these. So I'm gonna download this. Yes. Cool. So what I'm gonna have you do is to start out with, like, you can do this collaboratively. And then there's this box right here. Just the coaching questions. Why do you like that? Like, why the claim, right? If a student is trying to make some sort of claim, why is it being made to begin with, right? Besides the fact that they have to do it, right? That's what a kid would say. If you have to do a lot of explaining, is it a good match? So in terms of like the evidence, so what I'm going to have you do, I'm going to share this out, and I'm going to go into the feature controls, and I'm going to turn everything off except for the text comment. I'm going to select OK. And so what I'm going to have you do, you're going to go just to the first page, and you're going to drop in a comment. I'm going to pretend it's this one. Drop the comment on the evidence that you think is the best match. So if it's this one, be like, this one, right? And then hit enter. See how we do. I'm going to drop this in the chat here, because I've done way too much talking at you right now. I hate that. Cool. So go ahead and jump on this doc. Just work on page 1 first, and we'll talk about it. Okay, you're all teachers, so you're all going to get it right. That's not really the point. The point is to show you the strategy, show you how easy it is, right? So you can low key download this file and use it. You can also assign this out individually. So if you sign this out individually, and you'll be able to see in class view in Google Classroom, you'll be able to see like what they're all doing, how they all think, right? And then give them that area to explain their thinking in the space below. So I really hope that you are like appreciating how this session's not about like, how do we do a full-blown essay, but taking those practical strategies to break apart the skills that are required to write successfully. Because the writing, it's not just about the grammar. It's not just about crossing those T's, right? It's the skills of thinking. Like, how do we begin to write? How are we supporting evidence, right? And then if you can download this copy here, you can go in and change this, customize this out, make it your own. These are excellent strategies for, I hate the term anticipatory set. I'm like, dude, could they have found a term that is like more of a turnoff, more of a just, it's like a burden to listen to, I guess is my point. If you're doing like a warm up, bell ringer, like whatever it is. Oh, it doesn't let you down. Is it this copy that's, hold on. That might be something. Collaborators can download and print. Are you sure it's this copy of it? If you go to the one that was in the slide deck, it may not let you. So if you're grabbing it from here, yeah, so you should be able, here, I'll kind of show you. So this one, I can drop this in a different profile. You also do quick download. So we can go to the little arrow right here. The quick download, I believe, will carry all the annotations over, which you could ultimately delete and manipulate. That might be a oh, you're getting this one. Girl, I did that already. I might have to, that might be a Google thing. No, that looks good there. You know what? I'm going to do this for you. When in doubt, I'm going to give you your own individual copy. I don't have time with all this permission business. Okay, so when you select create individual copy, when you click on that, it'll be yours. There we go. So that last one, click on that one, that'll be your own copy.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, so with the time that we have left, there's one more strategy here. So this is okay. So this is one that is this idea of having students engage with the same reading, with the same texts, but provide different prompts along the way. So here's what I've seen. Now, mind you, I taught government, right? So the thing that my students hated reading was Federalist Paper number 10. Mostly because they're like, what do these words mean? But I've seen other gov teachers, no shade, not be too successful because they are trying to get them to understand this text using really, I feel, archaic strategies. Here are the guided questions. Answer the questions and read. Answer the questions and read. Answer the questions and read. And so what I would do though is they would read Federalist Paper number 10. But they would read it, like, let's say I had them read it on Monday, and I had a whole annotation build for that. I can share that with you in a bit if you'd like. In fact, yeah, I can share that with you. But not even answering questions, just like engaging with the text purposefully through annotating. And then we do a different prompt a day on it, right? Are there any weaknesses you see in this piece? Okay. And the moment they get like even semi of a grasp of understanding number 10, they can start constructing their own weaknesses, right? How does this piece compare to other pieces written? If you are a history teacher, an ELA teacher, one thing that and I'll drop this comment, is like comparing any of the Federalist Papers to the Constitution itself, because that's a different type of flex. It's a different type of thinking of like, ooh, so like it's kind of going like before and after, right? Revolutionary time, right? Like and really thinking about like what motivated those earlier arguments. And you can do the same thing with the Declaration of Independence, right? In fact, I think that's the one that I used to do this with. The Declaration to the Constitution. So you can kind of have that build of like, okay, cool. Like what kind of arguments were being made and how do we see those arguments embedded into our main document, our go-to, right? The law of the land, so to speak, right? And so this is just here for you as inspiration. Feel free to steal it. But again, it can be one text, but multiple prompts throughout the week, and being very purposeful of how students engage with that read. And then once they have, like, if you're doing these strategies, I would really encourage you to think of ways of how to build a portfolio of having students document how they're engaging with a driving question or various documents or a particular lab or unit that you're doing, because now they have all of the pieces. If they have all of the pieces, going back to this one, if they have all the pieces, put the puzzle together, right? Put the puzzle together. And that's kind of a different session. If anybody is ever interested in just like a DBQ session, I do that as well. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so this one I love. So this is for teachers and students. So like model and practice, unpacking. Here's one that's scored at a 2 and one that's scored at a 4. So don't even have the kids, you know, start writing yet. Let them evaluate from their own lens of a good example and a bad example, but justify it, right? And so you can do something like this. I'm going to, hold on. Because I know during the slam, I think it was Amber, she'd be using Gemini. Can you pull Gemini up over here? There you go. So you can do things like write a strong intro paragraph to the causes of World War II. Intro paragraph. Boom. And then while it's doing that, I'm going to come over here. And by the way, folks, if you don't know this, if you open up a new tab and you type in cami.new, boom, you just get a new Cami doc. Boom. And I'd be able to copy and paste this here. I'd be able to, you know, you can edit. And I used to do this, but this is before AI was around. Y'all, if I was back in the classroom right now with high school kids, oh my gosh. So here's like version 1. And then now I can be like, okay, now write a terrible version of this with little to no evidence, bad grammar, and weak claims. It's gonna be all short, super bad. And the economy was like, so then they see, then you can tell them like, girl, that's kind of low key how you write. And I'm gonna put this up here. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna show you something cool. Blank. Maybe you don't think it's cool. It's okay if you don't. I'm gonna add one more page. Boom. So with the second page, this is where I'm gonna put the other option. So you can do like, I'm gonna do example 2. And I can make a text box, right? Example 1. And you can straight up ask them like, hey, you're going to drop in feedback, girl. You can drop in feedback, just give them those oral instructions. Go to page 1, go to page 2, blah, blah, blah. Teen lingo. Oh my gosh. By the way, you all are the superheroes. So I'm not in the classroom anymore, but I hear more and more of how kids are talking right now in this moment. There are like vocab terms, like teen vocab terms that I think I need a class. Like, what was one? So Laurel, I think like our friend Adam used one on social media recently. Or I'm like, dude, what does that even mean? I forgot what the term was.
I don't even know what half of them mean, and I don't even know if I want to know because some of them are just
that's fair. That's fair.
I'm just like, what? I don't want to say that.
So and because I don't know what it means, you're right. You're kind of scared of it. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't know. Okay, cool. So if the students are coming in and they're dropping in their own feedback, they're really analyzing this. So like letting them dive into critiquing before they start their own writing, I think is super good. There's an advantage to that. Now, what they could do is if you share this out or you assign this out, what you can do is there's a little eyeball up here. You can click on the little eyeball, and this turns it into 2-page view. And the reason why you would want this in 2-page view, or maybe why they would want it in 2-page view, like they can stack it side by side. Because I think this changes things for the students. They'll be like, first of all, length. Yeah, girl, it should be a certain length. But then maybe you like color code. You color code certain things. Right? Like, ooh, where is the hook? Where is the thesis statement, if any? Right? And see that side by side. One thing, hold on. This is not even like too Cami related. I'm just sharing this out because I'm like, I would like to think I'm a kind human being. My students love this template if you are using DBQ. So it has like in red, hook there, context, whatever that blue is, light blue, whatever, I'm colorblind. Green, that's the thesis statement. And like, once they have all the pieces, just put the puzzle together. And so, does anyone want this? Is this useful? You can make a copy of it. And I would literally like assign this out. I guess you could do it in Cami. But if they are using this, the Cami involvement could be, and I did this in the slam. But just to show you again, if they've turned in an iteration of this, you can go into the dashboard, the Cami dashboard. You can go into split and merge. This will be my last thing. I'm sorry, we're slightly over time, folks. Yes, definitely use this in English as well. But when you are in split and merge here, if you go straight to your drive, and they've turned in several Google Docs and essays, once they've done an iteration, if there's like the color coordination that's there, you can select all of them. Hit select, and it's going to, again, move them all into split and merge together. Hit next. Hit merge mode. I'm going to move all this into Cami. And now it's moving all of these essay drafts into one collaborative environment that I can share out and allow my students to give each other feedback, go to a different peer, do that color coordination. And if it was done in this doc, the color coordination is going to be there. So that way they can be like, ooh, that's red. that's supposed to be their hook, but is it? Oh, that in that blue, that's supposed to be the context part, but are they fleshing all that out, right? And being able to give that feedback in a wide range of ways. Okay, so friends, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna stop a recording. I know we need a break. We're gonna do the sandbox build in a sec.